On this episode of That Kingsville Podcast, Economic Development and Tourism Officer Sue Rice from the town of Kingsville joins us, and we got rid of Kev. So, for all you haters, it's a Kevin-free episode.
But he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. It's March break. He's away on holiday. Join us for a wonderful conversation with Sue Rice on this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. That Kingsville Podcast is brought to you by Murray Insurance. Are you frustrated with the current level of service you get from your insurance company? You concerned about some of the most important assets that aren't covered the way they should be? Whether it's your car, your house, your income, or your business, ask the professionals at Murray Insurance for a full review and get the peace of mind you need with your insurance. Call Murray Insurance today at 519-733-2331 or email service@murrayinsurance.ca. For great, friendly local service and staff, guaranteed same-day callback, claims, and concierge service, Murray Insurance. Thank you, Murray Insurance, for supporting That Kingsville Podcast. That Kingsville Podcast is brought to you by Kingsville Brewery. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Wednesdays at the Tap House, Country and Western Wednesday. They'll have country music playing all night long, special Texas barbecue-inspired menu, and country-themed craft cocktails. Next guided instructional line dancing night is March 29. To secure your spot, contact the Tap House directly at 519-712-8884, extension 1. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring the podcast. Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. With me this week, Steve Ianson, special guest Sue Rice, replacing Kevin Black.
Who?
You know what? It's crazy. He decided he was going to, pick a family commitment over this wonderful podcast. So
the seat's not even warm.
It's not. It was ice cold and just easy to fill. Mm-hmm. So, Kev, sorry, you're going to have to audition if you want the seat back when you get back. And actually, he's nervous. He says, listen, don't be too funny. Because we got to keep this easy. No, Sue's here. Sue is the recently appointed Economic Development and Tourism Officer for the town of Kingsville. So thanks for joining us today, Sue.
Thanks for inviting me.
So the economic development, was that anything to do with all the tree brush generation? Like we're just starting little businesses with cleaning up all the town branches?
Yes, getting ready for all of our campers and everything. This summer, come in, stay warm in the winter,
clean up
camp
all
in the summer.
The sticks.
It's incredible how chipper they were.
I see. This is what happens. We just feed him the lines and he knocks them down.
Perfect. I worked on my dad jokes, don't worry.
Oh, Steve, you got competition.
That's good.
1-2. So, all right, Sue, for everybody that isn't familiar with who you are, just tell us a little bit about who Sue Rice is.
Oh my goodness. So I've been with the town since May of last year. I was hired as the Ec Dev and Tourism Officer for the town of Kingsville. So that's a new position, which is really exciting to have that opportunity. And I have been in Kingsville since 2005, Essex County born and bred, and just really love this town. And so when this opportunity came up, I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. So past history, I know you've had some dealings with some of the community organizations.
Yeah. So what I did before, I had my own company for 5 years where I would do public relations, marketing, in all aspects, communication piece, covering all of those things, strategic planning, whatnot. Before that, I was with the University of Windsor Faculty of Law. I am not a lawyer, nor have I played one on television.
Oh, you made the joke. I was going to make the joke.
Nope. Only legal profession is the only profession where you're, other than the clergy, where you're a non-lawyer. So I was a non-lawyer in the legal world, but I was a program manager and research coordinator for the National Self-Represented Litigants Project, which was an international project looking at how people who represented themselves in court, specifically family and civil, fared and worked with the legal system to kind of make it more user-friendly, plain language.
That was a little lawyer speak.
Yeah, it was a little lawyer speak. So that was really great. And before that, I've been around this area for a long time. I waitressed in town while I was working at the law school as well. It kept me out of trouble at nights.
We don't have to go so deep that it's like, well, one time I was at Burns and it was really late and, I might have stumbled out from.
Yeah, no.
Sue's a good name for law.
He's down on his quota for dad jokes.
All right, I'll set you up the best I can.
I just
Hey,
oh no, maybe
it's coming.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
So May of last year, you joined the town of Kingsville.
Yes, yeah.
And filled that position that was so direly needed, as I've discussed ad nauseum in this podcast. Because hey, was I on a couple of?
Were you on committees?
I was on
Yes,
committees.
yes, you were.
I was on committees.
I think I read a note about that.
Yeah, couple. But yeah, I personally, and I'm sorry, audience, this is just me, very selfishly excited that Sue filled the position, and that everything that we did on that committee, as my 2-term appointment, was that now we actually have somebody filling the role that's able to execute initiatives and things like that. So for the audience, what is ECDev, and what does ECDev mean and apply to in Kingsville?
Well, I think a lot of people think economic development, it's scary. The word economic is kind of like snooze, except for this guy was on a committee for it. Twice. It's a word where it gets complicated, different terms, different numbers, all of those things. To me, when I really look at economic development and how I apply it to Kingsville, it's really a sense of place. It's how do we make Kingsville the best place to live, work, visit. And that is, making sure that our businesses thrive, that our community thrives, because everything's interconnected. And that's why the tourism piece is part of my job as well, because they go together. So I think that, to me, economic development is making Kingsville really wonderful and sustainable in a way that what we do now also will then sustain our future generations. So making sure that the choices we make now, how we do things, will go forward. Those messages that we give out to how we do tourism will bring people for generations to come. My family cottaged here in Kingsville. That's my other Kingsville connection. We had a cottage on McRae back I wasn't around. It's not that much makeup on.
It was there.
Yeah, but in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And they loved it. I have family photos. And so it was always that place to kind of come to. And that was generational in my family. So that's the type of thing, to me, where you're looking for those common threads. And then they go out and they become all the departments that the town is. But I really just say everyone really in town, whether you live in town, work in town, work for the town, everyone is on the economic development and tourism team.
Oh, they got you trained. Oh my gosh, you caught
I just try to do that so my coworkers will help me out and do things sometimes.
It's like, hey, remember that time I was on a podcast with 16 listeners? I said you guys did a really good job. Can you help me?
Yeah. When you're a department of one, you try and make it.
Well, you're not a department of one. You're a department of 1+, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of different ambassadors throughout the town, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so
as
lucky.
Well. So, when we started to talk economic development years ago, there was a lot of foundational things that had to be established. Where are we at with what the town is now evaluating and setting forward for strategic planning and initiatives? And how are we coming along 8 months, 9 months into the job?
So I think, during my interview, one of the questions that they gave me to prep was, how would you update the strategic plan, which a committee had done? I think it was the Economic Development Committee.
I don't know.
And,
wasn't it known as the ECDave Committee?
Yes.
I think
that
at
was
one
it.
point.
I thought it was a typo. I thought it was a typo in the report.
No, it wasn't. It was actually.
There were other members on that committee.
No,
One is now a counselor.
Anyway,
let's not discredit Counselor Lowry.
So during that process of my interviewing, that was the question: was how would you update this strategic plan, economic development strategic plan? And going through it, what didn't need to be updated, it just simply needed to be implemented. So that is where I started last year, is really just looking at reading everything that we had in our vault of information. So the business retention and expansion program, the Main Street project, there's tourism pieces from years ago, going back about 6 years. I just took everything, read that, looked to best practices across ECDev and tourism throughout, really now it's a global stage that we can look at, which is great. You can always find towns similar to your demographic across that. And just really pulling all of that information together and then getting out and really listening to businesses. I'm grateful that in my own business, I had a lot of local clients. So I kind of knew that, their business and their feed and what their concerns were. But now coming in from this angle, it was just sitting and listening, and it was every little bit, and then the stones start to pile up and you see, what direction you're going. So with that, I just presented at Committee of the Whole 2 weeks ago. And we're really looking at now going forward and starting to implement that plan. So I put into the budget this year, we're doing our destination development and implementation plan for tourism, which is exciting. And that will have especially our town is very tourism friendly, so that will have a great economic impact. And it's going to get a lot of stakeholder engagement. It's really exciting. And then we're just working on some grants and things to really put through a super positive, super inclusive business strategy that will have, I'll use the word toolkit, all of the things that our businesses need, all the little pieces that make things more seamless doing business in Kingsville. So working through that. And then, those are all the things that are also in the studies that the committee had found was certain things like having a great positive business culture. And it doesn't sound like, what is that, like happy hour at a certain time? No, it's not a bad idea, but that means, being able to call the ECDev office and say, hey, Sue, I don't know where to find this. Where did I find that? Oh, you know what? We've got this. And then we collect those things, and then we can put all of that, work towards those bones, creating the bones that we can put all those questions and things on, that then we'll be able to build that. So people will know, like, oh, I go to ECDev. Oh, I go right here. Oh, I've got this. Oh, I know exactly how to put my awning on or my patio, or I know, oh, I can go into my site plan selection and different things, right? So we're really working on that piece, but we had to have the bones first, and that we're still collecting. And if we just wrote a grant, hope to do this because we can get it done a little quicker with a little extra help. But if we can do that, we'll have the engagement again, going out, asking everyone, right? I can listen and I can hear, but we need to collect that data in a organized way where we can go back and have the ability for council to have that as well to make good decisions.
You mentioned the businesses, and historically, there's always difference of opinions, like there's anywhere. Yeah. What's the key for you to getting? I don't want to say everyone, but the majority of people, the majority of business owners, to buy into the plan?
Hold the event at a winery.
We don't have any of those around here.
No. Luckily, we have fabulous breweries. We're lucky area. I think it's, for me. And I've worked in government before, working with the law school. I worked at all the different levels of government, so federal, provincial, municipal. But being in municipal, this is my first time as a staff member of a municipal government. I think the thing that I knew because I come from a family of municipal employees, my mom and my gram, but you really have to take a 360 approach on every single thing. I know sometimes it takes a little bit longer to find the solution, but when you're looking at someone, so if business A tells me, okay, Sue, we want this. We really need this. And business B could be 3 doors down and be like, heck no, like, no, we want this, we want this. So it's like walking around and taking that time, getting that engagement and opinion, and then finding that common thread. So really simple example of that is we did, I came in May, tourism. I'm like, okay, well, we got to get something out. Just talking to people from what I knew before and then talking out to as many businesses as I could. We did our From Kingsville with Love postcard because everyone loved Kingsville. That's what every business and every tourism operator said. We love it here. Okay, that's our common thread. There's always something. We all end up here for a reason. We all have that common thing. I look at it as that, kind of being a little conduit to finding that view that will unite us. Sometimes it's not. We're going to have to do a give and take, right? We're not always going to be happy all the time.
Yeah, there's an event that's kind of a little polarizing that with open streets over the last couple of years. Yeah. There's been a lot of, I'm not going to call it controversy outright, but a lot of naysayers with regards to, it's an inconvenience to close down the downtown core on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. And, the second year having open streets and paring the closures down to just one evening a weekend rather than 2 or 3 as it was in the first iteration. So, as we've had some of these events, are you finding that there's ways that you are convincing as there's proof behind the effectiveness of this event, or have we started talking about Open Streets 23 yet?
Yeah, Karen Loney does the Open Streets, so that comes under our special event. So she's working on that special report. And that will go to council as well. Again, it's listening, right? It's kind of getting that antidotal if I'm in about something else, having something come through, and just being able to gauge and just really hear, asking our business organizations. We have, our BIA, Eat, Drink, Dine Kingsville. We have Epic Wineries, if it was, on a winery scale. So having those organizations, that's really great. I'm always working and reaching out to try and get those dialogues really going. And it's, and it's tough. And it goes a lot of times, it goes back to council, and I really admire them because they're the ones who have to be up there, We write reports and we do things and we can make recommendations, but they're up there and they have to decide. And they know sometimes that maybe 15% won't be happy. The other, 85 might do it, but how do you do it? It's tough. And community, it's give and take. It's like if you live in a family and a home with one bathroom, you've got to figure it out. Right?
Yeah. It's whose time allotment.
Yeah, very simple analogy, but yeah.
I think over the last couple of years too, with the hardships that a lot of businesses may have felt through COVID, a lot of wariness about acceptance to do things that are a little bit out of recovery mode. Case in point, we see that things like the Hogs for Hospice event, for a couple of hours, I don't think you could get in any business in downtown Kingsville while that event was here. The spontaneity of let's call them pop-up events or whatnot has such an impact. Sorry, Steve, you're looking at me like you want to add to this.
No. I just want to clarify, because when you say you couldn't get into business, it wasn't because people were blocking the stores.
No,
it was people in the store.
It was an economic, right?
Clear that point, because some people think, well, were they blocking the street? Were they blocking the stores? No, they weren't. They weren't.
There was bikers everywhere. We couldn't get anywhere. I couldn't get in to get my hands on or pizza or whatever. No.
I didn't want. I'm sorry I interrupted your thought. I was like, come on,
professional. As many people, are misunderstood. We're not professionals unless you want to hire us. You can just get a hold of us and pay us to do this. But anyhow, economic development comes in so many different avenues. So with our downtown core being the focus of Kingsville, I'm aware because of what I've done with the committee that the prosperity of a town solely depends on the prosperity of their downtown core. And events are a great way to grab attention. However, if we've noticed over the last few months, we've seen some vacancies in the downtown core. Now there's going to be some reoccupation of some of those buildings that hasn't been announced that some people are aware of and not. However, there have been some announcements. So do we understand why some of these businesses have had to vacate above and beyond let's call it non-political reasons?
Well, I keep in touch with the landlords the best I can, business owners as well. So I know that with certain vacancies coming up, we've talked to everyone in. There are a lot of new things coming in. I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
But you can't.
No.
But you can't.
But I can't. No, but there are things coming in. We do watch that. Of course, that is one of the things with the town too, is that you're respecting people's confidentiality when they come to you with things. So, but it is moving in the right direction. It's unfortunate that it's some larger buildings that we have, and that is traditionally in smaller towns, it's the larger spaces that are a little bit more difficult to rent because it takes a bit more commitment. It takes a bit bigger business. You're not going to have, a small business be able to afford that much space. So we have to find the right people, but we're working with landlords. We try to touch base with them always, reach out. We reach out to new businesses. We'll just, if we know that a business is looking, if people are like, oh, I really like this in town. It happens. I have been known to shop, and if I'm somewhere and I'm shameless, I'm like, you ever think of coming to Kingsville? Well, I'm going to come to Kingsville and give them my card, and you never know. You just never know, and that does actually pan out a little bit, but we do, and it's when someone sees a larger space in a more visual area, it causes a little bit of panic. But I believe we've got a couple new places coming in, and our vacancy is actually quite low.
Does that not on the other side of that coin, does that now present an issue with future economic development, space development?
Well, I think council's got a really interesting job now. When the election was going on, I said, this council is really going to determine a lot of how we shape ourselves, right? And that is the mayor and council are talking about their plans, and they're, I think, being quite strategic and deliberate and looking forward. So that is going to be a big challenge, I think. So how do we get more little stores, right? When you're out traveling, if we're going to be a big tourism spot, how do we get those little shops that people like to go to find that unique thing that they go back to, Hamilton, they came from Hamilton, they come here and go, oh my goodness, I was in Kingsville, this little shop, I bought this shirt here, I bought this handmade something here. we want those spaces. So it is something I think we do have to look at. We've been doing a little bit in Cottam. We did some concerts this winter, which was really fun. And we're even looking at now with sitting down with Cottam businesses, and we're looking like, okay, Cottam has the opportunity to decide how do they want to develop.
I'm going to insert a Kevin joke. Does anybody really care about Cottam?
I love Cottam.
Yeah. Do you, though?
Yeah, I do. But a lot of my jewelry is from Cottam.
It's lovely. Again, it's just, I felt the urge that Kevin would make the comment, and maybe that's why he's not on the show today?
Maybe that's why he's not on the show anymore.
Sue, that'd be a conflict of interest.
She caught him by the scruff of the neck and said, "We're going to do business."
I was just waiting so you could, get that Cottam joke in.
Yeah.
Speaking of economic centers in the town of Kingsville, what are we going to do with the Ruthven?
The one thing I really love is that people are excited about economic development now, right? And so we are talking to businesses in Ruthven. We have reached out. We've reached out to businesses in Cottam. And I think going forward over the next few years, that's my goal, is to have, whether informal or formal, however, businesses decide works best for them, but have those meetings where we can sit down together as businesses, whether it's sectors or geographical locations, and really just talk like this, right? And listen. So I think,
they've got an outlet now. They've got somebody to bounce ideas and get their concerns heard.
Yeah. We're a diverse area. The town of Kingsville, as I call it, the town of Kingsville proper, all of the communities, it's so unique, and every little area has something different to offer.
So predominantly, though, when we speak of economic development, everyone thinks of the actual physical downtown core of the town.
Yep.
And that's not accurate, because a lot of our economic sector is outside of the town. When we think of retail and we think of, restaurants and service industries in that downtown core. However, we have major facilities just outside of town. How is the town addressing their economic development challenges and needs, or is that something that you've been able to address so far?
Yeah, so we work with companies looking at coming in. You have an industrial park in Ruthven. So we're meeting with companies who are looking at that.
It's getting quite full, by the way.
Must have been that committee.
I'm not going to take credit for that. That was not even us.
I think a great drinking game would be every time we mention Dave and committee in the same sentence, you take a shot. With
delicious Kingsville Brewery beer, go to the tap house in downtown Kingsville and get all your... I'm a shill for beer. Anyway.
Well, we are talking again. We have such a unique area with our closeness to the U.S., with the Highway 3 expanding, 401, the bridge coming in. We've got all of these things, right? We have such big industry in greenhouse. We have people that supply the greenhouse industry. We have other small, light industrial. There's such possibilities. So we want to strategically make those to keep the quality of life, not let it impede, environmentally, all of those things. But we're working with
so a bit of a hot button topic too, with the odors and the lights. No, you didn't want to take it. Sure. Steve makes a joke. Yeah, fine. A little controversy around the greenhouse industry, of course. There is other industry, though, that we have that kind of does go under the radar. With nursing homes and care, long-term care homes. We do have an abundance of those. That is an industry all on its own. So with regards to the strat plan, I know when, why am I going to say this? Because it's like, I know when we start, Gary's shaking his head.
He really is shaking his head for those of you who can't see him.
It's terrible. Those areas were the ones that we neglected unintentionally. And it's a matter of making sure that the focus isn't placed on that. So have we in your strat plan underlying, because I haven't been able to read the report yet, if it just came out and whatnot, are we addressing all of our levels of area of industry, let's call it?
Yeah, the hope is, again, a lot of it depends on, the timing of it depends on grants, right? The timing on getting it done, because you just need the people power to be there. But we are, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No, I was just going to add that, the reason why Sue keeps relying on grants is because you don't want your taxes to go up overly excessively now, do we? No. Because these things do cost money, and economic development initiatives do cost. So,
well, and it's getting that background that really shows capturing filtering the engagement and what people are looking for and wanting. So in a perfect world, we get a grant, it comes through, we break down by sector and invite all of our all of the owners of businesses in each of those sectors and really sit down and do a strat plan with them. Really listen. What are their needs? What are they wants? Where are they growing? Are they having an employee crisis? That's such a big topic in economic development right now, is finding people to work. Right. So then, that's going to obviously spill over into housing and different things, but looking at all of the industries going through, right? We do break them down. One of the things that we started with right away was trying to keep our inventory up of like where our businesses, what sectors are. Again, that helps with grant writing. That helps just in addressing issues coming up. So yeah, it's a little bit of time, but we're working at that. So yeah, every industry.
It's just one of those things that people don't understand and don't realize. Yeah. And you've got the benefit with it being your role and responsibility. I had the benefit because I just nerded out, and that's what I decided I wanted to focus on for a while. But the relevancy of what those things do for the community, that is tangible benefits of like, hey, because we've got these facilities, because we've got these operations, we need to make sure that they're thriving in the community as well, because losing big sections or factors of that type of an economy does have an impact.
Oh, for sure it does. It means that less people are shopping. It means less people are doing business lunches.
People don't want to be here.
Right.
Because you start to see big gaps in things, right? Like, that street used to be pretty. There was trees, and now it just looks all run down. I don't know why they sound like that, but they do in my head. They do.
It's the voices in his head.
It is the voices in my head. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. So economic development, strat plan, everything you've presented at the committee of the whole. Anything that you want to, make it a podcast exclusive, because we don't have the reporter or anything. Anything that is a little teaser about what's to come in 23 or.
Well, I said we're looking at the tourism destination development implementation plan,
I'm going to get into
really
that.
Great.
Don't worry,
okay.
That's the other half of your job.
So that's great. Yeah, and then for economic development, I think to really ask everyone, like I said, we talked about everyone in the community is on the ECDev and tourism team. One of the things I've done since I started, and it's a very simple thing, is every single day I go to work, I wear something that I purchased in Kingsville. I'm not asking everyone to do this, right? It's really integral to my job. But it's a commitment I made. I can be like, oh, I bought this shirt at Red Apple. I bought this watch at Flower Fashions on King. My hair's done local. Everything I do is that. If everyone in town could pick one thing where they're like, okay, I'm going to make sure I buy this local. Right? That, to me, is something I would like to be able to do a bit more, is just get out and ask people and pull people in and get ready, because we're going to do that stakeholder engagement. So people can ask, well, what can I do? If I really love Kingsville, I want my town to thrive. Pick something and support it.
You've talked about everybody sort of having a role in economic development. Years ago, there was a lot more people and a lot more work done by local service clubs. Now, I know the Rotary Club is really working hard in Kingsville, and there are a few other groups still around. What roles can they play when it comes to economic development, and I guess on the broader picture, tourism too? Yeah,
and it's interesting. So International Women's Day today, great plug for all our wonderful women. The pins I'm wearing are all from female relatives of mine, my great-grandmother, my grandmother.
Lovely. I was going to ask.
Yeah. So it's, the WA, the IODE, the Daughters of the Empire, all of these, pins, again, service clubs. That used to be how communities were built.
Right.
And we've come away from that, prioritizing where work goes first, the commute, we're inundated on our phones, right? Playing games on our phones or doing different things. I think that, again, individually, we have to decide if I'm going to shop local, okay, and am I going to commit local? What's one thing I can do? Maybe it's every quarter I'm going to go somewhere. The event tonight, Murray Desjardins doing Count Her In, which is to celebrate International Women's Day.
Yes, count her in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not as a counter.
Yeah, right. Like not counter in.
Right. Yes, like the counter's in, the kitchen's almost done.
Hey.
Yeah. And it helps.
Thanks, Gary. Finally. He's killing himself.
But there's a group of, of amazing women. I was there before I came here. And there's that amazing group, and there was some service club members and things, but it's creating those communities within our community, right? And then they spill out. And we used to do that naturally because we weren't as distracted. We didn't keep as fast of a pace. And if Kingsville is this quaint, sweet, lovely, historic, old time kind of feel, then maybe that's one of the things we challenge ourselves to bring back. And whether it's maybe not joining a service club, but it's maybe calling a service club and saying, how can we support an event that you're doing? Yeah. How can we, like
Rotary, Kingsville Rotary South Shore, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
This is kind of where I'm going with this is again, they don't necessarily have to be members, but, just throwing it out there as ideas to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can volunteer just
we
one
all,
night a month or something.
Like through COVID, I think we all kind of had that sentiment as well, as we all supported, Takeout Tuesdays and ordering from the restaurants, because we all, as Kingsville residents, appreciate the fact that we have such a vibrant cuisine and restaurant scene that we understand if they don't have business, we lose them, and it's important. Just as like you said, shopping local, going and buying your appliances here locally, or your flooring, or your clothing, or getting your hair done. Yep. The more and more that this sentiment's communicated, I think the more and more that people will collect and convene and say, I'm going to get behind this kind of initiative. Coming out of COVID, now people can focus back on things that they want to, rather than the doom scrolling on your phone of the weary and dreary and whatever we went through for the past couple of years. So,
and I think it's hard for people who, a lot of people will have social anxiety, and that may have heightened over the time of being alone. So, getting back out there is important in a way that feels comfortable with people. So it's finding little things. So many things you can stuff envelopes. People still do mailings, believe it or not, right? You can.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, keeping him employed. Steve works for Canada
Don't stop that.
Yeah, please don't put more stuff in the mail.
But there are so many little things we can do. And again, the service clubs are often kind of the door openers for things, right? Communicating that to the community, getting the word out on things. But again, this group of women tonight all coming together, and that's from one business creating this initiative. So people can make it more difference than they ever know.
Absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely. Because again, a lot of us have the same sentiment because we all have this underlying appreciation for what it is that we value of Kingsville, why we love Kingsville.
Yep.
So on that, there's a lot of reasons coming through, like the tourism season, and that's the other half of your job. Is segue as a professional podcaster. We're coming into tourism season. So understanding that you've got Karen Loney and other individuals at the town, what role do you have in the execution of tourism for Kingsville?
Yep. So Karen does our special events. So she will handle open streets and those types of things, and we confer back and forth. We're all, I joke in the office, everyone's on the active tourism team, and I'm on a lot of other teams as well. As far as tourism goes this year, we've got our the plan coming through. So our destination development and implementation plan that will come through, and that will engage all the stakeholders. It will engage residents and different things. There'll be so many vehicles to get your voice out in that and talk about tourism, which I'm really excited about. So that will probably be in the second half of the year, just because of how government grants work, and you have to have an organization, the organization to be able to execute that thing. It's quite extensive, and the information they come with it helps in so many ways across the full gamut of the town's operations. So that's really exciting. So for now, we're in the midst. We'll kick off our new tourism focus for this year in April. On April 4th, I believe, is the date. Just finalizing everything now, but it'll be really fun. It's a really fun, and it's taking that challenge that I said about getting involved and being a part of it. And it's going to allow everyone in Kingsville to be a part of this, and everyone who comes to Kingsville to be a part of our tourism for this year. Oh,
interesting. Because that's part of the problem that we have. How many times have you traveled outside of the area and say, I'm from Kingsville, and everybody go, Kingston?
Yeah.
No, Kingsville. King City? No. Yeah. It's an understood region of Ontario, right, which does have a lot of fairly recent attention with a lot of people moving here. Yep. So with that, are we reaching outside of our radius of let's say London in? Are we going beyond the 300 kilometer radius? Are we broadcasting to Ontario?
Well, only if you'll do it.
Wow. How many times can this podcast get downloaded outside of Kingsville, Essex County?
There's a challenge right there.
Actually, we do have a listener in Germany, right? Yeah, we got a German listener. Thank you. Danke schon.
Anyway, so as far as area goes, this year, same with the economic development, the tourism, it's really the bones. We're working on having a website that is cohesive, messaging that is cohesive, pulling in our strengths and getting that structure made. That will happen this year. So we won't reach out as far. It will be more local. It will be more, again, the postcards encouraged people, from Kingsville with Love postcards encourage people to go out and send that to someone and say, invite them down to come to visit, right? So really focusing on that, really focusing on Windsor. There's still people in Windsor who say, I've never been to Kingsville.
Well, I'm glad we took down the signs on number 3 highway too, because they were hardly legible and, Google Maps takes me wherever I want to go anyway. So signage.
We're really, it's updating all of those things, but it's focusing again this year on getting that strong structure involved and set in place. And then we're getting all that stakeholder engagement. So this is kind of our get ready year, and really good information and getting our team aligned. And then next year we'll be able to go with, again, what the stakeholders say. So what our community says, what our businesses say, and go from there.
As you touched on, we've got a lot of community already existing organizations like EDDK, Ask, and whatnot. Those have served as a pseudo tourism foundation, and it's a great building block to go from there. We also have the events and festivals, and with the recent announcement of the Highland Games not being a Town of Kingsville event, that shows that these events can grow and have legs. So with that, do we see that this is a continuing trend of let's have more often, or let's have more significant things that we want to implement as tourism initiatives, or are we going to, just kind of ride the wave of what we've got so far?
Well, I can't speak for events because that's not my technical.
But it's tourism.
It is.
More events, Karen. Yeah. They bring people to town.
Karen gets some sleep and then.
No, she doesn't. She needs teammates, right? That's how we appropriately staff an in-need department. Anyway, yeah.
But, that's where the destination development and implementation plan for tourism will come in. Do we want more events? Does our town want events? Do our businesses want events? Do they want us to focus more on having really great tourism that, collateral that reaches out to Toronto, saying like wicked ads and great, pieces online? What do our businesses and community want? So maybe it's more events, but we'll know more once we have this study done, and we'll be able to do that. What I really love about getting this done as well is it gives a 10-year plan out with steps put in. I think it's really wonderful, and it'll be a great tool to this council and then the following councils to always have a guide so we won't lose track. So, since I'm taking over for Kevin and, if I'm, sorry, we're not supposed to tell.
Now, so next time you just
But, people change jobs, people things. But if we have these plans and implementation in a direction going, then we don't lose all the momentum we've had, right? So I think getting this is really exciting. And then having that plan, we'll be able to see, is it more events? Is it the town sponsoring the events and supporting them, as in Highland Games, how it's being, done this year? Or is the town actually doing them, as Open Streets has been done in the past? We'll be able to get that a lot more to see and actually document it. So it's not just going to be hearsay of like, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, and be in a really good spot, hopefully, to make some good decisions.
Yeah, the Kingsville Music Society kind of paved the way to show that well-organized event that has a wide range of appeal to demographics and generations can serve in Kingsville for an annual event. So I think that, in my humble opinion, that the work that was done by all of those volunteers and groups have enabled us to understand that when there's planning and foundation and strategy put in place, what the net benefit is for the town, right? And we don't understand, because we're not looking at it, just how that makes the vibrancy of town pop, right? People, if they're birders, right, they've come here for years, and people don't realize just how many birders come to Kingsville.
There's a lot of birders.
Thousands. And they come every year, and nobody knows.
They tweet about it.
Steve.
That was a good
Thank
one.
you
That was
so
your
much.
best one so
It
far, I
was.
think.
So much, Steve. I don't know. Do they all have social media? But I'm sure they do. But yeah, that's those are the things that we've taken for granted, right? We've got facilities like Jack Minor, Lakeside Park, the Grovedale. Which can we do some stuff with the Grovedale anyway? Yeah, please.
There's a great concert coming up. Alex Cuba is coming to town on March 24th. I think it's a Friday.
You are getting Kevin's seat.
Grammy Award winning. I believe he just won a Grammy last year. Yeah, it's amazing.
And these are the reasons why those efforts and those organizations facilitated so that people and talent like that are willing to come in.
Right.
And we can't discredit a lot of the personal attachment and the personal touch that a lot of the businesses and operators have done as well. The personal pride shows extremely well because what they show and they exhibit as, hey, when you come to Kingsville for the Greenway Jam or the Highland Games and you come into my store, come back.
Yeah. And it also goes back to the volunteers, like you said, Steve. Then if we have great events and great things and we really know what we're doing. So when you volunteer and you have a great volunteer experience, that works too, right? And then we're getting more people to come out each time if it's communicated really well and we have a good direction where we're going.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sort of... I don't know whether I should temper this or not, but
you're gonna.
No, I don't know if I am, because the one thing that concerns me about tourism, and it may be a little bit harsh, and this is not, you're not to blame for anything but there were a lot of times last year just walking around town and you look at it and you think, my gosh, if this is what people see or if this is their first impression, it's not good. And I'm thankful that council's had the foresight to hire more staff, because I think that was the issue. But some of the boulevards and park areas were not well kept. They were a mess. There's garbage and stuff along the gutters of our main streets, which is where you want people walking. And I remember last year, one business owner coming out and taking a look down the sidewalk along Main Street, and whoever was delivering the flyers just had thrown sets of flyers along the sidewalk. And if I'm a guest, let's say I walk out of the Grove Hotel and I look this way and I see flyers, and I don't know what the business side of it as far as who delivers the flyers and whether that's within their right. But to me, those are little things, small things that maybe will have a big difference. Again, like you want to come and see the shops. You don't want to see the leaves and the cigarette butts in the gutter or anything like that. So, along with the big picture, I think there's some small items, small things that can be done to really, impact tourism. And
one of the things, as simple as, again, everyone is on our tourism team. So if you see something like that and the town needs to address it, requests@kingsville.ca. Okay. Right. So that, it's little things. You don't expect someone to go and pick up all the garbage or, flyers, right? Or different things, right?
Right.
So you can ask, that's request@kingsville.ca. It's the new customer service initiative. So that goes through, you get a tracking number, and that, people, there's a difference between complaining and contributing. And so you can contribute.
You mean those lines aren't blurred? Everybody thinks, listen, I went on the Facebook and I said that it's terrible.
But, I guess I don't want to sound like I'm sitting here as though, I'm just wandering around looking at stuff.
No, you're contributing. This is contributing.
I'll say like the planters and a lot of things that have been done to beautify the town are very effective too. Like it's a give and take, but I've been, and again, you sort of, Niagara on the Lake is sort of that top tier echelon, if you will. And you don't notice those things walking downtown in Niagara on the Lake.
I've been at it a long time.
Well, there's that, right?
Yeah. No, I understand that. But if we're looking to be that or get to that point, which some people think we can be or should be or want to be, whatever, then there are things that can be done. But I guess I look at it too, is that if I'm, if I see garbage in the gutter in front of my house, I pick it up. I don't want people driving by thinking, well, I don't know who lives there, but that place looks a mess.
And that's why the request is so good, because if we can't have staff everywhere all the time. We're a small staff.
Yeah, Nelson's gone. He's not the guy that knows where all the problems are. Dennis has got to catch up.
So, that's why, again, I always say before you send an email, before you do anything, it's the intent in which you send it. So if you see something, if a resident sees something that's, okay, that could be, it doesn't look good, it's not a good representation, then send that in and make sure that's known. And then that can be addressed. If it's not the town, then the town can direct it accordingly, right? But that, if it doesn't get noted with an intent to do good, then it doesn't get changed.
So you've talked a lot about building for the future, right? Planning, strategy, execution, roadmaps, whatnot. Elephant in the room. Two major big properties. And well, it's me. I'm the elephant in the room. No, is the two surplus schools that are going to be coming up. And it is a council priority in order to facilitate something in those spaces. One being in the downtown core, the other one being just east of the downtown core. Got to have a major impact. How much of your involvement would handle anything with the proposals or execution or capability for those two properties?
Well, depending on what type of study that they're going to look at, and I know this council is very strategic in how they want to do things. They want to make sure they do things well thought out with a lot of voices being heard. That's really important to them. So I believe that I would contribute to what are other businesses saying? What is our business culture? What is our business climate? What are trends going on? What are we looking for with tourism? If we want to get that nice, sweet feel of Kingsville feel, not any other town, but Kingsville's feel. How do we want that? What kind of shops would we have? What kind of accommodations would we have? So looking at those pieces, then definitely, and I would love to be able to contribute to council and create, documents for them to be able to look at that shows all of those things and have really good reference points for them to help them make their decision.
I mean, you look at like that Kingsville public school properties got so much potential. I know.
Do you realize why 23, 6 years ago, I wrote a report?
Yeah, I know. And I was kind of alluding to that too.
Yeah.
But Committee Dave came up with a plan.
I wasn't trying to allude towards that.
No,
it's a matter.
But I was. No. And
his words.
Without going into specifics, some of the ideas he had really got me thinking and thinking how good they were. But just to touch on the potential, you've got the proximity to downtown. You've got a beautiful natural area, which the school sits sort of atop of, if you will, and a nice walking path down there. And I think, the high school site currently has, potential for certain things, but I think there's more limit to that. But where KPS is for what Kingsville could be and maybe wants to be,
and that's an economic developer's dream, is being able to mold, right?
Yeah.
Most economic developers, they have to work with the canvas that they have.
Right.
Economic sectors are usually established in towns, right? You've got your barrier regions, and then you've got your future expansion, right? Like Leamington. Leamington did it horribly. Alienated their downtown, put all their new development to the south side of town. Everybody left downtown.
Right.
To have new economic development space, green space, residential, mixed residential in the downtown core doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
There are a couple of benches in front of KPS that were installed in 1993 by a grade 8 class. So if they can somehow be kept.
Would that be the class that you graduated from? You know what?
I just remember sweating with the late Jim McIntyre and I think Jason McIntosh over this whole,
that's down home Kingsville. Yeah. And that kind of, I wanted to kind of summarize the whole conversation that uniquely in your position, you've got the ability to be that voice and be that guide and serve a far more strategic and informative and a collective opinion and group and body, a point of reference for the municipality, not only for operations, but also for the public. And I think that your guidance, your planning, your execution is going to serve us so incredibly well because we relied on the kindness of people and their own internal initiatives. And it was great, and it still is great. Now having a unified approach, having some strategy behind why we do things and what impact it should have measurably, will only continue that success trajectory and take a little bit of the burden off of some of the people that were taking the workload on themselves. So, Sue, I'm getting all emotional here. It's so great.
Can I have a tissue?
Yeah. No. So in your first 9 months, anything really surprise you about the position?
Wow.
Your coworkers? It's okay. You can talk about Tara. It's fine.
Oh, my office mate.
Yeah.
I'm I am really grateful, and they don't pay me to say this, my coworkers, but I feel very proud to be part of the team. I see how hard everybody works. I see how they show up. And it's not just when there's the big things like I can't call it an ice storm because I was in Ottawa during the big ice storm, but, if you're doing this terrible weather event we had, and, it put a lot of people, I was out without power for 35 hours. But you see, the team just showing up and just coming through. I feel really proud to be part of the Town of Kingsville team. But it surprised me. I think it's always a reminder, again, I go back to that kind of looking at things from 360, right? Like for me, I try to listen more than I talk when I'm with businesses. I try to hear what they're saying. When I'm at an event, I listen to what people are talking about. I find out what's important. And then I try and pull those things back together and then, do research on it, know from my own professional experience and different things and bring all of that through. But always remembering that is, it is probably, a big learning. We don't always, in private sector, you don't always have to look at it 360. You're like customer, business, we've got it, we're good. Business to business, client to client, whatever. But with a municipality, it is really different. So that's a challenge that I always, daily make is just stop and listen, leave your ego in the car and go
Mine's
in.
not big enough.
The car or the ego? That was good, Gary. I didn't get anything. Thank you.
We got all the buttons at once there.
She's auditioning.
Yeah.
Match the keypad.
But no, and I think it's the working in public service is just, it's the system that when the system works well and everything is coming together, it does serve the people. And so being able to be a part of that is really great. And just remembering that. And it's really humbling at times when you get to be a part of, our businesses, you're not their success, but seeing them succeed or connecting to businesses and then someone refers someone and then their business goes up or, talking to tourists who are like, oh, we came back, we met here and we were on a trip and we've come back for our wedding. And to have those little moments, it's just, it's humbling.
There are many things to love about Kingsville. We're in the right direction along the way, but how would you sum up or describe Kingsville's potential as the economic development officer looking ahead 2, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, I think we have the ability to completely create ourselves with a nod to the past. We've got all these, again, little hamlets. I live in Albertville. I like to tell everyone I live in Albertville.
There was an Olympics there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Ski down Gramside Road.
Yes. You have all these, little hamlets that all were distinct and separate, and now they all work together. Now they're all one, right? So we have that distinct personality in each place. We have Salem, which was our first Black settlement in Kingsville, right? And that cemetery is still there. You've got all these little places. So we, that nod to the past. And looking at how we all come together where we are, and then bringing that forward, I think that's
saying
unique.
There's going to be new businesses in New California.
Could be.
They're not just the church and the T intersection.
But I think we have the ability. Yeah.
New Olinda. Is Olinda in Kingsville?
Yes. Yeah. Ruth. Ruth.
I'm just trying to rattle off as many of the small communities that I know.
Yeah. I think we have the opportunity, again, people contributing, whether it's through volunteering in places. When we ask for a survey and a survey is put out by the town, answer. Right? Like those little things, everything makes a difference. So I think if we can feel empowered about that moving forward, we, as a town do, like for me, getting those studies done, getting that stakeholder engagement. I think our council is really great at listening right now, and hearing what people are saying and trying to incorporate all those concerns in. So I think if we can kind of get that in and we get that little machine going,
sky's the limit.
It is. It is. And I don't mean by sky's the limit, it doesn't mean that we're going to be big and this and that. It's going to be, to me, what I love about Kingsville is I walked into the event tonight and there were women from Windsor who came down to it, right? Because of the quality of the people who are putting on the event. And that says a lot about Kingsville, right? And then you also know so many people there, right? When you kind of, even if you just recognize them or...
All three of our wives are prominent. Kingsville,
you have 3 wives?
All 3. Kevin, Steve.
Okay,
I am not, no, Kevin, Steve, and my wife. They're all visible, predominant women in Kingsville.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah, and it is. And I think that's, that's our strength. And when we bring all that together, it's going to be, it's just, I can't even...
Well, so you've
every
been
day I listen.
Yeah, you've been visible around town too, right? All the events that I've participated in, you've been to most of them, or Sue was just here, or blah, blah, blah. So
right place, right time.
And on that note, Sue,
I was waiting for the rice joke.
Sue, how do people find you at the town?
So it's srice@kingsville.ca, or you can call the office and they'll put you through to my...
And they'll find you that way.
Yeah.
Well,
or if you see me out, I'm always... I don't want to say walking the street because that's,
That negative connotation.
But I am out. I purposely go out and, whether it's popping into businesses... getting something for my ensemble to wear to keep that Kingsville piece every day. But just stopping and talking to people on the street and listen, like I said, listening. And, you don't always know when something isn't quite working or quite whatever. But if you talk to someone else about it and they hear it, and I've talked to maybe 40 or 50 people in a day sometimes, like at a festival or different things, and you start to see the threads coming out. So one voice does matter, so let that be heard and do it with a great intent to contribute to be part of our ECDEV and tourism team in town.
It actually says on our business card, the rice is right.
That was my grade 8 president's campaign.
There we go.
Is that what you ran on?
I ran on, I won.
The rice is right? Oh my gosh.
Student council president.
Well, Sue, you know what? We talked about a lot of economic and development things, and I guess I can not really talk about it much anymore as being the expert in town.
You can still be the expert.
No, I'm not the expert.
No,
You're the expert.
No, X.
Expert.
I like it.
Expert. Thanks.
Sorry,
Steve. I love you. We're late in the show. Nobody's listening anymore. It doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. Tell me what you really think. No.
Steve. But yeah, it's again, for me personally, it's great that you're in this position and that these things that we've planned and helped do as volunteers can be executed, because the biggest fear that I have in Kingsville is that if we let go of the wheel, a lot of things can happen that we don't necessarily will benefit from, and having somebody as a liaison, qualified body for helping guide, that's the basis of success. So thanks for joining us on our little podcast here.
Thank you. And thanks to you two yourself and all the volunteers. I know we joke and tease, but that all of the pieces that every volunteer does and has put in, for me walking into an office of a position that didn't exist before, that was my rock. And, every voice that I've heard, every opinion I've listened to, all of those things are really important. And when we roll out things, you'll see every business. I can credit every business and tell you who this was from. This idea was sparked from this person. This idea was sparked from that person. So thank you to you, because you're getting people to talk. I think 14 or 15.
16. We're up to 16. Now that Kevin's off the show, he might breach 30.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody hates Kevin. But anyway, he'll be back next episode. Maybe Sue might supplant it. I think
we'll have him back.
Yeah, we got lots of stuff to cover now.
Yeah.
Looking forward to what it is that you're going to unveil over the next few months. Love to have you back on if you want to discuss about initiatives, participation, whatnot.
Yeah, definitely and I'll keep you posted about when we're doing stakeholder engagement for our studies, so people can come out and listen and speak. Right? Yeah.
And as being involved with that, it does net a benefit. People are listening. Please participate. So with that, this is this wonderful episode of Sue Rice on That Kingsville Podcast. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Kevinless, so you don't have to put up with him.
That's the t-shirt.
I don't know, Steve, are we going to vote on this to see whether or not...
he's coming back. They'll have had enough of me in 2 episodes. They'll want him back. They'll be begging for him back. So we need him.
They'll be right in the streets. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to the YouTube. It does help us with regards to the live broadcast events that we do. Special thanks to Gary Glass for production. We'll see you next episode.